Just thinking of those two, I mean, whatever people say about footballers being enemies, yeah, there is a camaraderie which exists in the game, which overcomes all.
They've got great respect for each other, I'm sure. There's a lot of conversation going on there between Brian Clough and Terry Venables after the match, and what transpires, we might find out what they were saying to each other before the game. But Jimmy, Bob, perhaps we could have your final thoughts just going into the game now about what you think might happen today, Jim?
Well, I've clashed with both the managers in my time, and they have teams of immense footballing ability. There's not going to be anything in the match, really, in my mind. One of the problems might be it might be so close, you know, that they cancel each other out.
The crowd these days once again happily paying due respect to the traditional cup final hymn. So let's join our match commentary team now, and that's Trevor Brooking and of course John Motson.
Royal Highnesses, the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Well, they say that Alf Ramsey changed the way English football was played. He's also helped to change the tradition of the cup final, because that's the first time I can recall the teams being on the pitch for a bide with me, but it didn't seem to matter. And as Desmond Lynham said, it was well observed, as I'm sure will be the introductions now, because this too is breaking new ground at Wembley. We have 4 royal guests: the Prince and Princess of Wales, the Duke and Duchess of Kent. I believe that Princess Diana's elder boy William plays football at his Ludgrove Prep School in Wokingham, so she has been to see a few matches this season. Not one as big as this, though. Neutral green, with perhaps a touch of forest red.
Will you please stand for the national anthem?
Stuart Pearce of Nottingham Forest will present his team to the royal party. Des Walker shaking hands there, Steve Chettle alongside him, fellow central defender. Gary Charles in there, Ian Wone, who we heard from earlier on, Gary Parker, Lee Glover, Nigel Clough, Gary Crosby, Steve Hodge, a substitute today, as indeed is Brian Laws, and the other Brian, Mr. Clough, who will now be presented to the Princess of Wales. And having met one of the great personalities of this cup final, the Lady Princess Diana will be led across to meet the Tottenham Hotspur team. And in a few moments, she and Prince Charles will be shaking hands with the other great character, Gaza. I suppose you could say, with his tendency for tears, Gaza, it's a case of one Prince of Wales meeting another Prince of Wales. But enough of that. This is the Tottenham Hotspur side taking their chance to meet the royal guests. And Gary Mabbott, the captain, doing the introductions. And at the end of the line, the referee, Roger Milford, and his two linesmen, Peter Newton and Peter Brennan. Duchess of Kent will present the cup at the end of the afternoon. And she now meets the Tottenham Hotspur team. And Paul Gascoigne typically has a touch of something different there. David Howell shaking hands. That's Naeem, one of the substitutes, just in Edinburgh. Paul Allen, Paul Walsh, the other Tottenham sub. Vinnie Samways, Gary Lineker, and a word there for the England captain, and indeed for the Tottenham Hotspur manager. And their Royal Highnesses have been introduced to all the main performers here today. And as the teams break and the flavour for this 110th Cup final builds up, let's take a final check on the two team lineups. Nottingham Forest, the semi-final team. At number 2, 21-year-old Gary Charles returns in place of the more experienced Brian Laws. At number 6, Roy Keane. At 19, the youngest player on duty today, gets in ahead of current England international Steve Hodge. Indeed, Laws and Hodge are the two subs. Lee Glover at number 10 is only 21. Ian Wone at number 11 in his first season of senior football is 23, giving the Forest team a cherubic, choir boy look with an average age of 23 and a half. Spurs, by comparison, have an older side by about 2 years on average. At number 10, their only out-and-out striker, Gary Lineker, is the oldest man in the match at 30. One of those 5 midfield players has almost certainly been given the specific task of marking Nigel Clough. We shall see when the game starts. On the bench, as indeed they were for the semi-final here against Arsenal, it's the same team, the substitutes, Paul Walsh and Naeem. Brian Clough, having come out smartly attired in his suit, has in the past at Wembley disappeared behind there to put on his more comfortable tracksuit, and it looks as though he's going to do the same thing again. And the royal party seated now next to Bert Millerchip and his wife Barbara in the front row of the royal box, and the Forest chairman Maurice Roworth there and his wife Sally. Maurice Roworth sitting next to Her Royal Highness Princess of Wales. And in the centre circle, Roger Milford and his 2 linesmen greet the 2 captains, Gary Mabbott and Stuart Pearce. 2 of the great leaders, these players. Pearce, something of a hero now in Nottingham. They've really taken to him over the last year or 2. And Gary Mabbott, such a splendid image for a professional footballer. And the 2 teams sporting new kit today, made incidentally by the same manufacturer, and they've developed those Tottenham shorts that Bob Wilson was talking about, which are a throwback really to the 50s, I think. Perhaps Alf Ramsey and Bill Nicholson's time as a player. But here's one of the modern breed, just in Edinburgh, just 21 years of age, the youngest player in the Tottenham side. Didn't even start a league game until the 8th of December, which makes him even newer to a scene like this than Forest's Roy Keane, the Irishman who's made such enormous strides in this, his first season in top-grade football. Just before the kick-off, a chance for Trevor Brooking to have his say.
Well, let's just hope it's the sort of final we all expect. 2 good footballing sides. Will it be the teamwork, passing habits of Forest, or perhaps the bit of individual flair from Spurs? We're just about to find out.
Again, the Wembley pitch looks in fine fettle. Spurs in white, going for a record 8th FA Cup win. Forest trying to do it for the first time for Brian Clough. Paul Allen wearing number 11. And it's Sedgley sliding it across. And I think we're going to see a roll for David Howells, which we'll pick up in just a moment. That was Parker, and this is Stewart. Now, as Nigel Clough went forward there for the first time, the man tracking him is number 5, David Howells, and that may be a Terry Venables tactical ploy, but that's certainly a tough first challenge, to say the least. And Gascoigne walks away, and the player on the ground is Gary Parker.
No, one or 2 tough challenges. There's one between Nigel Clough and Paul Shirt earlier, and then that one where Paul Gascoigne definitely did, I thought, a little bit unnecessarily follow through, but the first couple of minutes you always get a few hefty tackles, as you see, as it comes through, and it was even worse than I thought. Followed through and into, looks like the stomach, in fact, of Gary Parker, and no wonder he's doubling up. And that is the side of Paul Gascoigne I hope we don't see.
Do you think the referee should have taken any more action over that?
I think if he had the benefit of seeing our replay, he might well have done, and I don't know what Paul Gascoigne is saying to him, but having seen it again, he was fortunate not to get more than just a warning.
Roger Milford actually took charge of Tottenham's match at Liverpool last Saturday, only a week before the final, so he's pretty familiar with the Spurs players. Anyway, the delay has meant that Steve Chettle has gone forward for Forest. This is Pearce. Now it's Wone. This is Chettle. Across to Gary Charles. Keane is well forward. Crosby over on the right wing. He was being challenged by Justin Edinburgh, and Forest get the free kick. Linesman on the Royal Box side in the first half, Peter Brennan. That was Chettle, and away by Van den Hauwe. Wone takes the corner. Half away there by Samways. It's a shot coming in from Charles, number 2. That was Lee Glover playing up front with Nigel Clough, then Paul Stewart in midfield for Spurs. This is Keane. Charles. This is Sedgley. This is Gascoigne. Forest fans packed at the tunnel end of the stadium to our right, and the flag's up for offside against Gary Lineker as he runs in their direction. Stewart. This is Allen. And it's Vinnie Samways pressing Des Walker. We've been playing for 5 minutes as Forest tried to strike up the pattern and the movement for which they're so familiar. Here's Parker. They've been playing with a lot of rhythm recently, Nottingham Forest. They want to keep that going on this surface. And don't usually waste it like that. Touch of nerves perhaps from Stuart Pearce. Here's Gascoigne. Van den Hauwe. Spurs will be looking for the explosive start they made to the semi-final as they push forward for the first time. Here is Gascoigne. Paul Stewart line just behind him, and it was turned out by Steve Chettle for the corner. And Gascoigne will walk across to take it. David Howells is well forward there, number 5. Stewart going into the 6-yard box as well. Stewart is up with Chettle, and the ball comes off the Forest player for another corner. Gascoigne practicing the in-swinger. Gary Mabbott and Steve Sedgley are both forward, but they're much deeper, waiting to come in. A longer one this time, and there is Sedgley, and Lineker was in there. It was hooked away by Chettle from behind the goalkeeper, and Sedgley has a shot. Well, Forest had men back there, and Mark Crossley was pleased about it because the ball went behind him as Lineker tried to get in, and there was good cover. Chettle notably was there for Forest as Lineker forced the ball past the keeper. Number 5, Chettle clears. Keane with a forward run. Here's Parker.
Well, the first little lull and first little glimmer of a chance just now. They're quite sort of good in the air at set pieces, Spurs. I think we've got a slight dominance in the air. Forest aren't renowned for dealing with crosses, and Mark Crossley tends to stay on his line rather than come out and take them. And certainly got a good firm header, and it was just as well Pearce sort of hustled Lineker, as I say, the first half chance of the match.
Lineker again. That was from behind. Nottingham Forest received an award this week as the fair play team of the season. They only collected 45 disciplinary points in their league matches. That was the best record in the country. Samways for Tottenham. Lineker back to him. Charles the defender. Mabbott's forward for Tottenham in this attack. Here's Gascoigne. And again, Wone. Vanden Hauwe. Vanden Hauwe wears number 3, but plays on the right of the Tottenham defence. And Edinburgh number 2 on the left. That's for Stewart. Walker's header. Pearce. Wone. Well played by Steve Sedgley. This is Gascoigne. And the foul was by Pearce. Been playing 10 minutes. Here's Samways. Gascoigne. Vanden Hauwe. And it was the challenge by Walker that stopped him. Stewart. Cross by Vanden Hauwe, and that's floating a bit. And Crossley had his arms up, but the ball was already over before he made any contact. It's a goal kick. Don't think he touched it, actually. It was floating from Vanden Hauwe over the top, but he just put his arms up to make sure. Well, Lineker appealed. Here's Gascoigne. Samways. Lineker. Nigel Clough won that, and Howells goes to him straight away. That's been the policy Tottenham have laid down to try to cut down the influence of Nigel Clough. Here's Pearce. And Torsvek came confidently, nearly 18 yards to meet Roy Keane. Keane seems to have adapted himself to this occasion just like he has to any other. This is Wone. Parker. Glover. It's Glover's cross. It flicked off the head of Mabbott. Now here's Paul Allen. Just Lineker playing furthest ahead for Tottenham, but it's Crosby now for Forest. Clough inside and Glover, and Crosby goes past one and past two.
It's run by Gary Crosby. I've seen one or two players go down for the penalty there because Sedgley did commit himself, and you know, he stayed on his feet, and credit to Gary Crosby.
And that long ball from Vandenhouw, far too long for Lineker. Spurs have got the 5 men in midfield, but with Howell shadowing Clough. Glover. Oh, that's a good little ball. Gary Charles was well forward.
Definitely a foul. There's an injury there, Paul Gascoigne, who was the one who lunged for Gary Charles. Gary Charles, for me, could be very much a key player because the way Howells is shadowing Clough, Spurs haven't got anyone out wide, and he can make these sort of runs here. Paul Gascoigne, I mean, it's a terrible tackle. I mean, you know, mistimed. He was never going to get the ball, and very rash, and he's hurt himself doing it. And it's not his strongest point. We've had two now bad challenges from him, although he's settled down, keeping possession in his normal manner, and he's enjoying the fact that he's not, in fact, got a man marker on him today.
Just seeing this again, I think we have to ask the question here, Trevor, if that had been any other player than Paul Gascoigne, with his second offence of the match, should he have had the yellow card, or will Roger Milford speak to him when he gets up?
Well, it doesn't matter who the player is. It was a bad tackle, and you know, I've seen people booked for less than that, and the fact that it was the second one, and I think the one in the opening minute looked worse the second time we looked at it. That one looked bad right from the off, and as it happens, it's Paul Gascoigne who's come off worse than Gary Charles, but I would think he'd have to be very close from the next time round to going and being shown a yellow card, although he looks as if he's struggling a little bit as he gets on his feet.
Well, Terry Venables will be concerned about his fitness. I think one ought to, as you say, treat it the same as it would be for anybody else, and it's got to be, and I think he's rather fortunate not to have had a yellow card for those two tackles, putting them together. Anyway, it's a free kick to Nottingham Forest with 15 minutes gone, and Stuart Pearce is always a danger here. Gary Parker standing to his left, but Pearce possibly lining up a left foot shot for Forest. Oh, it's in! What a splendid shot by the Forest captain to give Brian Clough's team the lead in the cup final. And what Gascoigne did in the semi-final against Arsenal, Pearce produces against Tottenham in the final. Superbly driven, Gascoigne still hobbling after giving away the free kick, from which Pearce puts Forest into the lead. It's the perfect strike with the left foot. 16 minutes gone, Gascoigne is down, and the Tottenham physio rushing onto the pitch. Now we have all sorts of drama here. He looks to be in a bad way, and the substitute is already being prepared.
It looks like the knee, doesn't it? And they're asking for a stretcher now, which is a very sad sight. The tackle was ill-timed, but nobody wants to see a character like Paul Gascoigne go out of a final. But the way he got up, he was hobbling back to the halfway line, and as soon as he tried to push off, once they'd kicked off, it collapsed on him, and he's going to be stretchered off. And unfortunately, that's the end of Paul Gascoigne in this final, as the goal there goes in, the free kick that he conceded.
Well, after all the hype, would you believe this? Terry Venables on the field, having to reorganise, because the player who many people thought would dominate this FA Cup final is not going to take any further part. Only 17 minutes gone, and the stadium torn between celebration at one end and sympathy at the other. The Spurs fans rising to say farewell to Paul Gascoigne, and at this stage it may be farewell for all time. It seems a churlish thing to have to say, but he's on a stretcher, but they may not see him again. And he is being carried off, and Naeem is on in his place. And what will that do, I wonder, to Paul Gascoigne's immediate future? We can only follow that up afterwards, but for the moment, early in this cup final, with Spurs still not having really recovered from the shell shock of the Stuart Pearce goal, they lose the man whose individual performances were so responsible for getting them to the cup final. Well, there were tears in Turin, and I'm sorry to say there are going to be more tears today. But taking nothing away from Stuart Pearce, whose goal has put Nottingham Forest into a commanding position in this cup final. This is Allen for Spurs. It was a wonderful shot by the Forest captain. And it was his 16th goal of the season from left-back, and not one of them has been a penalty.
Well, the injury to Gascoigne had tended to distract us away from what a magnificent strike it was. From the minute he left his foot, it looked in. Eric Torsved seemed to be unsighted because he was standing that side of the goal when the kick was taken, and then didn't move before it hit the net. And you know, the way the ball is lined up, you're encouraging him to hit the side the keeper stands. So he'd probably be disappointed that somebody got in his line of vision.
1-0 to Forest. Well, Gascoigne it was whose rash challenge on Gary Charles actually put Spurs in that position, defending a free kick. And then no sooner had they restarted the game, having gone one down, than he collapsed and is being stretchered off. This is Nigel Clough for Forest to Gary Crosby. Naeem has come on wearing number 14 and gone into a midfield position, but there's the man who has dominated the back pages, the front pages and the supplements for the last week or so. And who would have thought he would have left Wembley on a stretcher? They nearly got Lineker through there. It was Chettle in the way. This is Clough. Spurs having to reorganise a bit in midfield now. Here's Naeem. "20 minutes gone, and it's Nottingham Forest 1, Tottenham Hotspur 0. This is Samways.
Depends on Vinnie Samways here now. I mean, he played very well in the semi-final against Arsenal, and he'll have to take on the mantle more centrally now that Gascoigne was due to.
This is Pearce. Parker. No doubt it was a knee injury of some sort or another. We'll get a better diagnosis later, no doubt. This is Stewart to Allen. And whilst not wanting to draw attention away from what's in front of us here, an FA Cup final, it may of course have some bearing on whether or not, or how quickly or not, Paul Gascoigne moves to Italy, if that's where he's going. Here's Parker for Forest. They know where they're going at the moment, and that's forward with a 1-goal lead. But given away. Naeem to Lineker. This is Stewart. Allen. Samways. There's an almost subdued feel about Wembley at the moment, as though the injury has taken the edge off everybody's anticipation and enjoyment. One hopes it'll only be temporary, but it was a shattering blow for Tottenham, and it may indeed have... as Lineker catches Chettle on the wrong side for a moment there. Following up here is Samways. That's Allen's touch, offside. Offside. Gary Lineker put the ball in the net, but the linesman on the near side is flagging. It won't stand. The Spurs fans thought they'd equalised, so did some of the players, but there was a flag, and it was up pretty sharpish too. This is Paul Allen who makes it possible. Now, well, if you're level, you're onside, and I thought when Allen actually played the ball, Lineker had a case for saying he was on. That's one that will be debated at half-time and beyond. That's forward by Van den Hauwe. And this is Mabbott and Edinburgh. Now that was a moment when Tottenham will look back and wonder if they were the victims of a questionable decision. I know Bob Wilson's been writing in the programme about the number of contentious issues on the borderline that have affected the FA Cup this season. That may be another one. We shall have to see. This is Parker. And now Nigel Clough, nice little ball. Parker again. Samways. Stewart. They're trying to get Lineker in on that diagonal ball through the inside left channel, but here's Wone for Forest. And they've got 5 forwards up here. Glover, number 10, Ian Wone again. Oh, chances here, Gary Crosby was free. Storsvek saves. An opportunity for Forest to have gone 2-0 up. Eric Torsvek gets the credit for the save, but Crosby will see it as a chance missed. Here's Allen for Spurs. Now the game is really opening up. Samways. Well, did you see that as a chance that was wasted, or did you give the credit to the goalkeeper, Trevor?
Well, I think you've got to credit Torsved there that he spread himself. It was an excellent move. I mean, Spurs now being 1-0 down, they have to push men forward, and then they got caught on against one of the best counter-attacking sides in the league, Forest, and it was a good movement between Wone and Glover. Played it square then, and Gary Crosby, I think 1 or 2 players square of him are asking why he didn't give it square, but in those situations you often try and lift it over the goalkeeper. If it had gone in, it'd been a hero. The fact it got blocked by the goalkeeper, then 1 or 2 teammates will query anytime.
Well, we've been playing 25 minutes. It's 1-0 to Forest. It could have been 2. Here's Wone. And will it be now? No. On the other hand, it could have been 1-1 if Lineker's effort had counted. So there's plenty to talk about here at Wembley, not least the injury to Gascoigne, which has made Tottenham reorganise. Here's Allen. This is Van den Hauwe. Keane. Well, Gary Crosby, I had to just remind myself, did score in the semi-final from precisely that position, the first goal against West Ham, so he could hardly be blamed for trying to put it past the keeper again. That's Samways, looking for Lineker. They need support, Tottenham here, coming up. Here is Samways again, taking over the main role in midfield. Naeem. Hit Chettle, Samways. Hits Chettle again, Naeem. David Howell's waiting in the area now as the cross comes in. Paul Allen!
Good save by Crossley, good build-up by Spurs. They had to hold it up because Gary Lineker broke for a while by himself. People joined and eventually the cross came right over from Naeem, and Stuart Pearce just caught 3 or 4 yards inside him, and it was a good diving header. It's one of those, I think, Crossley, you either hold on to or they fly it past you into the net. On that occasion, he held on to it.
Well, there have been opportunities and possibilities at both ends since Forest took the lead. It's been a very exciting 10 minutes. This is Parker. Wone. Glover, number 10. And Glover goes again. Good tackle by Van den Hauwe. Stewart. Now I want to go back to the incident down here where Peter Newton, I'm sorry, the linesman on this side of the field from Widnes. There goes Keane. Peter Newton from Widnes on this side of the field, flagged for offside against Lineker on what Tottenham thought was an equaliser. And that's why it stands at 1-0, but I just feel it was a very tight call. Samways. Now, what do you make of all that, Trevor? It was a very exciting period, wasn't it?
Well, the game's beginning to open up now, isn't it? The goal has helped, and the fact is the early sort of movement and closing down of people in midfield is beginning to slow up, and people are getting space.
Mabbott and Howes are looking for space on the far side. Paul Stewart is up for this. That was David Howes. Whenever Forest and Spurs have met in recent seasons, it's been a good, fast, open game with usually a lot of scoring chances, and this looks, from the start, to be no exception.
The slight problem Spurs have is getting sufficient men forward, because by pulling one of their midfield players, Howes, back to mark Clough, and they've got Sedgley marking Glover, and both fullbacks, Van den Hauwe, Edinburgh, don't get forward that much, and you've almost got Gary Mabbott marking as a sweeper, working behind the two markers, and they're struggling to get numbers forward to join Lineker.
Was Allen getting back to challenge Parker, and Glover had cut off the pass back. Howes, Van den Hauwe. No foul given. Van den Hauwe looks at the referee, play goes on, and that's Mabbott challenging Glover. Quarter of an hour left in the first half at Wembley in this FA Cup final. Nottingham Forest lead Tottenham Hotspur by 1-0. A superbly struck free kick by their captain. Caught David Howes in the face from Ian Wone. To Sedgley. All-seater crowd now at Wembley of 80,000, and they've paid gate receipts alone today of well over £2 million, but they've seen the £6 million player carried off. Stewart. Oh, it's a good ball to Lineker. A real opportunity here for Tottenham. Penalty. Now, what does the referee do about the goalkeeper? Lineker has been brought down by Crossley. Spurs have a penalty, but in the Football League this season, referees have been sending goalkeepers off if they call it a deliberate foul to prevent a goal-scoring opportunity. I don't think he should be sent off, because I think a penalty is a just enough punishment for an incident like that, and I hope the referee agrees with me. But Gary Lineker is the man who takes the Tottenham penalties, and now on his shoulders, shades here of the World Cup. And Crossley has saved it, and follows Dave Besant as a goalkeeper who saves a penalty in an FA Cup final. Extraordinary. Now Brian Clough just wipes his chin, and Lineker looks stunned. Corner to Spurs. Mabbott came hurtling in there. This is Paul Stewart. Forward now by Edinburgh. Well, I hardly got time for the moment to go back over that, but Gary Lineker was clean through, went round the goalkeeper, was brought down, took the kick himself, and here's 21-year-old Mark Crossley making a superb save. That's going to go down in Wembley folklore. Although the pedantics might say, and Terry Venables obviously disappointed not to be on level terms here, might say that in other matches with other referees, Crossley might not even have been on the pitch to save it. Trevor Brooking.
Well, great piece of play by Paul Stewart. Gary Lineker, typically in this situation, keep his head. I think Crossley initially, he's trying to get to the ball. There's no way I would send any goalkeeper off for that. But it's definitely a penalty, and I thought Gary Lineker struck it pretty well, but Crossley had decided to go that way, and at full stretch, a magnificent save. And I think you might play that on his video a bit later this evening, a few times.
There's the long throw. There's Stewart up with Mabbott. Oh, that wasn't a bad effort at all. Gary Mabbott getting through to strike it as it came back off Stewart. Tottenham captain there, getting into the attack. But Crossley will be on a high at the moment. His nickname is Norman in the Forest dressing room because they think he looks like Norman Whiteside, another former Wembley hero. I understand that the injury to Paul Gascoigne surrounds the ligaments in the right knee and that he's going for an X-ray at this moment. No break, I'm told. And just going back to Lineker, he took those two penalties so coolly in the World Cup, didn't he, down in Naples. Here's Wone. Parker with the shot for Forest with 10 minutes left in the first half. And the score stays. Nottingham Forest 1, Spurs 0.
Well, no shortage of incident, and the game, Forest got their noses in front, but Spurs pushing forward, had that opportunity, and no better one than a penalty, but as I thought, Gary Lineker hit it well enough, and just let's give Mark Crossley every credit. But there are chances developing, and I'm sure we're going to see some more goals before the final whistle is blown.
I would take nothing away from the save at all. It was terrific. I just wonder if it was hit at a height that perhaps goalkeepers might appreciate, but certainly Spurs will see it as an opportunity missed. And here's Allen. Stewart. So here's Gary Charles to Gary Crosby. There's a late challenge there, just in Edinburgh. Very late in the tackle. There'll be a free kick. What a frustrating first half for Gary Lineker it's been, the England captain. Put the ball in the net only to see the flag up for offside, which he contested, and then round the goalkeeper, brought down, took the penalty, had it saved. That's Des Walker. Howells for Tottenham. Stewart. Oh, it was good play, and here's Lineker again. He just stumbled a bit there in his stride, Gary Lineker. He was put through very cleanly by Paul Stewart. Here's Wone for Forest. Parker. Sedgley's having a good match at the back for Tottenham at the moment. Here's Wone, though, winning it back for Forest to Clough. That's the ball that Forest love to play. Clough out to Crosby. Parker just inside. This is Gary Parker. Tried to just jab it on there for Lee Glover, and a corner results.
First time we've seen Nigel Clough get a couple of yards of space. David Howe's marked it very close, but there he is, and if you do give him that little bit of space, that sort of pass is what he conjures up.
Steve Chettle has come up for the corner for Forest. And up he goes with Torza. It's Keane! Well, that too was a good chance for the Irishman.
Yeah, near post corner, Torsved comes trying to punch it, I think, rather than catch it, and it just sort of drops down, and Roy Keane actually waiting for the ball to drop and snatched at it, hit it a bit early and floats over the crossbar, but as you say, good opportunity again.
The score could quite easily have been 3-2 based on the chances we've seen. As it is, it's still 1-0. Here's Allen. And Stewart now furthest forward.
He's had a good half, Paul Stewart, since reverting from striker to midfield. That gives him that little bit of time and space. He had a good semi-final against Arsenal, and possibly up in this first half up to now, I think he's been the pick of the Spurs players.
Six minutes left in the first half here at Wembley. As you'd expect from Tottenham and Nottingham Forest, a very open game. There's nobody really closing down at the moment. This is Parker. Crosby had absolutely acres of space when Clough found him a few minutes ago over on the right. Now Pearce meets Van den Hauwe.
That could be an all-ticket one, that.
I think they would put that on somewhere else, probably indoors at Wembley, I would think. Two of the strongest men in the game. Here's Stewart. Allen. So, just about 5 minutes left in the first half here. It's going to be Van den Hauwe with the throw for Spurs. Stewart facing up. Lineker, but a foul by Stewart. This is Naeem Crosby. I get the feeling that Crosby is proving a bit of a handful to young Justin Edinburgh, Trevor. He's fouled him 2 or 3 times, the Tottenham number 2, and Crosby's making inroads from that right-hand side.
Well, Gary Crosby likes to run with the ball. He's got good dribbling ability, and like any winger, once you've got an at your defender, you've got the defender in trouble. And Edinburgh is a young lad, and he's just got to learn not to dive in rashly and concede free kicks, but make sure he's tight enough to Crosby that they can't play it to feet and let him run at him.
The last foul there was by Sedgley on Glover. Now, how are the royal party enjoying the cup final, I wonder? Well, Nottingham Forest chairman is sharing a few thoughts with His Royal Highness. was Wone. Across comes Mabbott. David Howes away from Nigel Clough. Naeem. Spurs trying to get Lineker through the middle again, but Des Walker very aware of that danger. Here's Gary Charles. Sedgley, Samways, back to Sedgley. Lineker. Oh, now then, Tottenham could get sucked in a little bit here to the Forest counter-attack, which they're specialists. This is Wone. Mabbott got a tackle in. And with 2 minutes left in the first half, it's Samways for Spurs. Van den Hauwe charging down the right. Pearce goes across. They share a common nickname there, Psycho. Here's Samways. Certainly that's what Van den Hauwe is called at Everton, and it's what Pearce is called at Forest, but with great affection, I might say, by their supporters, especially after his goal today. Here's Parker. And now Clough, and once again Tottenham have left the Clough-Crosby combination with room in which to manoeuvre. Gary Charles is down that side as well. This is Crosby. Howes cut it out. Naeem, Allen. Now there's space for Tottenham in midfield. Stewart. And that's Paul Allen running through, and Keane it was that turned it back, played a 1-2 with his goalkeeper, and rather more coolly than perhaps it was, walked away.
That was fortunate, as you see the ball coming here. Takes it in the run, Allen, and Roy Keane slides in, and it gets stuck between Crossley's legs. Could easily have gone through and trickling towards the empty net, and Crossley and Keane were both really relieved at that. Paul Allen, a good little competitor and having a good battle going forward against Stuart Pearce, and apart from that free kick, has stopped him venturing forward.
This is Samways to Stewart. They're in the last minute of the first half here. This is Keane for Forest. And that's well played again. They're using Crosby so intelligently at Forest. And Edinburgh doesn't like it very much. He's held him again. But the linesman has flagged the other way, and Roger Milford sees no reason to stop the game. Stoppage time anyway. Forward by Sedgley. Forest, such a good passing team, aren't they? That was Keane to Wone. And it's all usually on the ground and nicely measured and precise. Pearce now. Keane. This is Wone. Time obviously being added on here by Roger Milford because of the delay over the Gascoigne injury. Now Edinburgh in the attack. Charles. Spurs could certainly do with something before half-time here. They're leaving the long throw for Steve Sedgley. Howells is deep in the penalty area, coming to meet it. So too was Keane. That was Edinburgh, back to Sedgley. Lineker closing in. In the 110th FA Cup final with lots to talk about. Nottingham Forest leading by 1-0. A stinging free kick by Stuart Pearce on 16 minutes. Gary Lineker had the ball in the net. It was disallowed for offside. He then had the chance to take a penalty after he was brought down. That was saved by Crossley. Forest had 2 other good chances at the other end, but at half-time in the 1991 Cup Final, it's the Forest fans who are happy. Their team lead Tottenham Hotspur 1-0, but perhaps the biggest event of all, the carrying off on a stretcher of an injured Paul Gascoigne.
That's the sad picture for Paul Gascoigne today. He's played no part in this match for the last half an hour or so, off with knee ligament trouble, we're told. Phew, that was some half, wasn't it? Plenty of incidents for us to talk about in a moment or two, but let's first of all show you what's been happening in the first half of the Scottish Cup final. Motherwell and Dundee United. Dundee United playing in white.
Disappointment there for Hamish French. Now he, I do not think, was the player offside. It was Darren Jackson, I think, who had gone forward.
100% right, Jock. Actually, Hamish French is so unlucky here, it's unbelievable. The offside that flag went up, and rightly so, against Darren Jackson, who was a yard off. But didn't Hamish French finish it well?
So a chance here for John Clark, the Udi shooting putt, or Freddie van der Haan. They're both very good from this position, outside the penalty box. Here's van der Haan. Off the inside of the post, and once again, United are very unlucky. Oh, what a tremendous shot it was from Freddie van der Haan. He drilled as low. Alistair Maxwell diving full length for that, and it's another let-off for Motherwell. Playing in high for Allen. That's the way Dougie Allen likes to receive passes. There's O'Donnell. Ferguson into space for Griffin, who's doing some good work on the right for Motherwell. Releasing the early cross. There's Ferguson! It's a classic from Motherwell! The celebrations begin! It's a goal of outstanding quality to put Motherwell ahead with 33 minutes of the first half gone. The cross here by Jim Griffin, who took up great position and was deflected, but just look at the accuracy there in the header from Ian Ferguson.
So Motherwell won up at Hampden, and of course Forest won up here at Wembley. What a half that was. And there were we saying what a good guy Gascoigne was before the match. And Jimmy, right at the start, he rather put himself about a little bit too much, didn't he?
He did. I mean, he means well, but there is a flaw in his temperament, obviously. Today he was so psyched up that first tackle, I don't think I've ever seen one quite like that. Watch the height of the boot that he carried on and got Parker in the chest with. I mean, quite extraordinary tackle.
If it had happened later in the game, it definitely got booked.
That's nothing to do with it, does it? You should have booked him there and then. I mean, it's a bad decision, really. I mean, he should have been booked there and then. The fact that it's Paul Gascoigne has nothing to do with it.
I think the ref was as shocked as we were. You know, I mean,
that's what I mean.
You did the interview
with him. It happened so quickly that...
He was in a lovely mood before the game. We were talking about having a game of football which was going to be one of, not exactly friendliness, but beautiful passing. And all of a sudden, a tackle that is beyond the line over which players should not cross. I mean, there is a line that I've mentioned before, and occasionally you see it. And that tackle was in that category.
Hyped up and adrenaline flowing, but wrong.
And his second contribution was costly in so many ways.
Well, it was just such a crude challenge again. It's a bookable offence in many respects. It's a bookable offence, that. I mean, it is very, very sad that he's had to go off the field because of it. But I mean, I think it could have been a booking.
Could have been a sending off.
He could have gone off with 2 yellow cards, you know, never mind the injury.
Within a quarter of an hour of the match?
Within a quarter of an hour of the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was ridiculed in one paper last time for saying that a great player like Gascoigne, when he was on form, was magnificent and can win you a game. When he's off form, he's a liability. And in the mood he was, Spurs were lucky they didn't have 10 men for the rest of the game.
But it's that indefinable thing within him, Jim, isn't it? It's the adrenaline thing, it's the wanting, you know, it's the overexcited thing, but it's just fractionally those occasions. We saw him against Notts County earlier this season when he put an elbow in the player's face, which was really either a red card, but he got away with that.
Well, a month ago, he was the hero. That superb free kick.
He was the hero at 10 to 3 this afternoon.
before
he was our
it
hero.
happened. Yes.
He was our hero
Yeah.
at 10 to 3 this
But
afternoon.
this is what resulted
Yeah.
because of that foul. Oh, this is the ambulance coming.
The good news, if you can call it good news, is that we gather he hasn't broken his leg. But ligaments can be a very, very serious problem. I mean, it can be a lengthy. Sometimes it can be longer than the mending of a broken leg. But it's of great concern to Tottenham in every respect at this moment.
I would think the general manager of the Midland Bank, actually sitting at home, if he is, unless he's here, his knees would be knocking,
And the
because
manager
that's
of
£8.5
Lazio,
million
perhaps,
pounds,
The manager of Lazio.
certainly on hold for the moment.
Right. Well, here's as I said just now, the incident that led to it, or the free kick that happened as a result, I should say, and what a free kick this
There's a bit
was.
going on in the block there, which we might take another look at. Look, there's a bit of shoving.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There is absolutely no doubt that Glover, watch number 10, I think it's Lee Glover, now he knocks Gary Mabbott right out the way,
Yeah.
and it's
Foul?
superb. Oh, absolutely.
A foul.
Shouldn't have been
No goal.
No goal.
No goal. No. You see,
I told you the worst place at Wembley is in the referee's costume.
it's getting a bit like American football, which we've mentioned before. Things are going off the ball, and one man with his two officials are not enough now to cope with what's going on the field of play.
So, there it is. Look, there's the still picture of it.
I mean, it was a definite push, and it's a kick the other way.
You might say, well done, Pierce, for finding the gap, mind you.
But he's created the gap there by that foul. It's an absolutely wonderful strike after
So
that.
we think perhaps that wasn't a goal, and we think that perhaps this was.
Certainly.
Lineker.
But we did say beforehand, when your name's on the cup, it may be on the cup, you know, for some other reason than...
Vinny Samway's lovely pass. Lovely
Now,
pass.
this is the vital pass.
Yes. Is Lineker on the far
Watch now.
side?
Now.
There.
Yeah.
Now.
Onside.
Look at the grass. You
He's
see,
onside,
he's level. You
yeah.
can see by the actual dark
Yeah,
grass and
yeah.
the light grass that he's level, and level is no longer offside.
This season, if you're level, you are onside. That is a very good goal.
Yeah.
And the linesman, like so many linesmen, has picked it up at the point where he is clear. There we are. There's from an angle at which I think it doesn't show up.
The stripes the
But we
other
can
way.
have a
that
look
way,
at, yeah,
Jim.
the stripes are going the other way there. And,
Actually, it looked offside from that angle, but the important angle is the first one we saw.
It's the moment the ball
And-
is played. People
yes.
have to remember that it
Yeah.
is the moment that the ball is
And
actually
level this
played.
season is onside.
It is onside.
Goal, 1-0 to Spurs.
Go 1-0 to Spurs. I mean, who wants to be the referee? Because
Well, he made the point himself before the match, didn't he? He's got that instant, that 2 seconds to decide, and we've got the benefit of all
he
this.
said,
but,
he said, I shall make some mistakes in the afternoon, either little ones or big ones. Well, he's made a couple of big ones.
yeah, but the goalkeeper didn't make a mistake with the penalty save, did he?
No,
I think it was
Wonderful stuff.
If there's any such thing as a good penalty, or an easy penalty save, that was probably the one. This is the incident.
And we're not grumbling about the incident nor the referee's decision,
no.
because the goalkeeper does make an attempt to get the ball. He clutches with his hands, misses it, and so it's a penalty and not a sending off.
It's the perfect height. If you've decided right, and as a goalkeeper, which once I think I was, then that's the perfect...
Perfect height for you then, Bob, not now. You'd like them a bit higher.
Well, things aren't going Spurs' way. It's as simple as that.
But you know, Des, it's interesting that at half-time they've had 9 shots on goal, I think it is, to Nottingham Forest 5. That shows how much they have come back into the game. The game is by no means dead. I'm not trying to prove that my prediction of Tottenham winning is still to come true, but they have come back very well. The game's not over by any means.
No. If Terry Venables uses those incidents, which he will be doing, to say, you know...
We're still very much there.
We've been cheated, in a way he will be saying, don't let that defeat us. Let's go out and use that adrenaline to beat them, because we show we can beat them. And Gascoigne, as it was, I say it again, as he was going on the field, was a liability, you know, and they haven't got him now. They're a better side now, because they have 11 players
I
completely.
don't think it would have continued like that,
No.
Jim. I don't think
but he
would
should have been
continued.
sent off, Bob. We've agreed that, which means that he would have put his side down to 10 men. That's a liability, if
It's
anything is.
important for people like Samways to really make an impression now, isn't it?
Well,
on
he
this
did that
game?
in the semi-final
Yes.
against Arsenal. A lot depends upon him now.
Yeah. Here's David Davis down in the tunnel.
Well, down here in the pandemonium of the players' tunnel, the gathering around me is because an ambulance has just pulled up. The doors have opened behind me, and we're expecting Paul Gascoigne to be carried, we assume, on a stretcher down the stairway just over there and be put into that ambulance. We had thought originally he would have been x-rayed here, at Wembley in the hospital facilities that they've got here. We had expected that would be enough, but evidently it isn't enough. He's now to be taken to hospital. Locally, we think Northfield Park Hospital for further x-rays. Ligament damage to his right knee is what we understand is the problem, but it's a very sad way for this cup final to end for Paul Gascoigne.
It is, and I guess it spoils it for you watching at home, the fact that he's not taking part too, but he did rather bring it all upon himself, I think, today.
Yes, he did, but it hasn't ended the afternoon.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to this second half
It's
immensely.
a contest, isn't it? It's an
I'm a little
contest.
worried now about my prediction, and Bob is smiling a little bit, that Spurs might come back into it, because they may well. If it wasn't for the fact that Nottingham Forest had been so blessed so far, you would think that Terry Venables will stoke them up and win the match, but I'm still sticking with Nottingham Forest.
He's a wily old fox, Terry Venables. I think he will be generating as much as he can at this moment out of the Gascoigne incident, out of the fact that what's happened, the fact that they're 1-0 down, and as Jim said, I think it's really got everything, the makings of another fascinating second half.
OK. Should we listen to the band for a while?
We'll do that.
All right, then. We'll do that.
Spurs are back on the pitch. Wembley has become something of a second home to their supporters in cup finals, but so too has it for Nottingham Forest, who've been here in the League Cup so many times. And I must say, just backing up what was said in the week about the improvement in the behaviour of supporters, the whole scene today here is very calm and comfortable, and you don't feel any sense of threat, which was perhaps evident not so many years ago. You will have your views on whether the all-seater plan is a reason for that. Meantime, Nottingham Forest are coming out and just emphasising the fact that Stuart Pearce's goal is the one which, at the moment, has them in front. We've seen that it was partly gained because of a push, and then Crossley, who I've got to say, backing up Jimmy Hill, he did go for the ball, as we saw there when Lineker went through, so I'm pleased that there was no suggestion of him. In fact, he wasn't even booked for that, which shows you that Roger Milford felt it was a legitimate attempt to try and get the ball, even though he got Lineker's feet. So after not having seen a penalty missed in a Wembley FA Cup final for all those years, we've now had 2 saves in, 4 years? Dave Besant from John Aldridge and young Mark Crossley from Gary Lineker. Managers and coaches and the royal guests all on their way back to their seats. Now the turn of the Tottenham chairman, Irving Scholar, to sit next to Her Royal Highness. The chairman traditionally changed seats at half-time at the cup final. So away we go with Forest now playing from left to right. Naeem has started the second half over on the left wing here for Spurs, which is where he was playing for much of the season. Indeed, he scored against Forest in the league game a fortnight ago when the teams drew 1-1. Mabbott contesting that one with Glover. Here's Pat van den Hauwe. There's Lee Glover. Taking on Stewart. Flag is up and it denotes that it's a free kick to Nottingham Forest. Here's Chettle. Bone into Clough. That's a good return ball. And the back pass is a bit short, and here's Keane. And hooked away by David Howells. Roy Keane close for Forest. And Spurs glad to see that scrambled away by their number 5. Pearce, Wone.
Well, a bit of a let off for Spurs here. You see a pass back by Howells and it hits van den Hauwe and sort of rebounds then. Roy Keane pounces up. It's a difficult one to control, but Howell, who made the original pass back mistake, relieved to hook it clear.
And it's Gary Charles who's penalised for the challenge on Naeem. This is Samways. Stewart. Moment's aberration by Mark Crossley. The ball rolled over the line for a corner. Well, Gary Lineker's right in there. Stewart and Howells have come onto the 6-yard line. Gary Mabbott is deeper. Sedgley's coming in with the header. Steve Sedgley, who was a substitute when Coventry beat Spurs in the final 4 years ago, wasn't used that day. Was Edinburgh. This is Keane. Now Pearce. Parker, back to Chettle. Van den Hauwe for Spurs. Long ball looking for Lineker. Came off Walker's head, Charles covering.
Done well, Gary Charles. Got a lot of pace and, of course, in the England squad for the tour in the summer, so shows the standing he's thought of throughout the game.
There's 5 Forest players on that tour in all. And that's a slice by Mabbott. Bring back a few bad memories for him of the cup final. Lineker. And Samways was well forward there, and again Gary Charles is the covering player. Excellent work defensively there, twice in quick succession by the 21-year-old who hasn't been in the team for the last 2 or 3 games. Brian Laws has held that position, but Brian Clough put young Charles in today. Five minutes gone in the second half. A couple of threats from Tottenham. Stewart pushing forward a bit more now to support Lineker. Crosby. That's where Forest can catch you sometimes, on the break if the defence is still getting back. Wone. Terrific tackle by Mabbutt. Oh, look at that for a captain's example, and an identical one from the other captain too. Wholehearted play there on the part of both Mabbutt and Pearce. Steve Sedgley. Stewart makes the forward run this time, and Pearce says to Cromley, come on, get off your line. May have been a bit slow starting, but he's found Parker. Wone. Glover. Sedgley. Paul Allen. Samways going down the right. Stewart through the middle. Tottenham throw. Spurs fans start to get behind their side again. This is Samways to Stewart. Into Allen.
Spurs trying to lift their side, and their supporters trying to lift them as well. They know it's very important to try and get back there. A second goal for Forest, you feel, would put the game beyond their reach, but they've always got the option of Paul Walsh, who's the substitute, but having used Naeem already, Terry Venables has to time that right in case he does get an injury sometime during the second half. But I would think he's got to give Paul Walsh at least 20 minutes if the score remains as it is.
Keane for Forest to Clough. Parker. Terry Venables knows that Tottenham have got to produce something extra now. Haven't disturbed the Forest defence too often. Here's Glover. But then again, here's Wone. They will look back, of course, on the disallowed effort and on the penalty they missed. How expensive will that prove, I wonder, if at all. Here's Wone. It's Pearce now for Forest. Keane's coming in with the header. Corner. It was turned over, possibly by Justin Edinburgh.
Edinburgh did well here. He's left his man Crosby and come in and just distracted Keane enough and to come off the top of his head and conceded the corner.
But should be taken by Wone. Half away by Sedgley. Pearce is coming in with a header. Offside against Nigel Clough. No need to stop the game. Just got a quick shot of Paul Walsh there. But here's Paul Allen and Paul Stewart with a chance for Spurs. And the equaliser! Paul Stewart scores, and Spurs are back in the cup final. Nottingham got the ball across to Paul Allen, who really made inroads there. Lineker was one side of him, but Stewart was the other. And Stewart, coming in from the angle, drives that with great accuracy and venom past the right hand of Crossley and into the far corner. And Paul Stewart, who scored Spurs' first FA Cup goal at Blackpool in the third round and hasn't scored since, a run of 80 games, well, he's got one for Terry Venables today, and it couldn't have come at a better time. It's one each.
Fine sweeping move, good ball from Nottingham. Paul Allen took in his stride superbly, waited and timed the pass then to Paul Stewart just at the right moment. And Gary Charles, the right back who was sort of just covering round again, but played then to Paul Stewart onside, couldn't get across in time, and he hit the far post perfectly. Here you see Gary Charles then comes across. It was him who then played Paul Stewart on, and he hits a perfect one through Gary Charles' legs to the far post. Crossley no chance. And we're back to one apiece.
And the Spurs flags being waved with great enthusiasm at the left-hand end of the stadium. And Brian Clough's face, well, expressionless, I think you'd say.
I think perhaps Paul Walsh might have to sit down for a little while now, but the other option on the other side of the bench for Brian Clough is, of course, Steve Hodge, and with his experience, I wouldn't think it would be too long before he might be brought into the action.
Here's Edinburgh for a rejuvenated Tottenham. Lineker just inside him. Here's Wone. Now it might be Forrest's turn to think back on one or two opportunities wasted. Here's Crosby. That's a foul by Nottingham, but a good advantage by Roger Milford. Not his fault that Crosby didn't get past the next tackle. Referee allowing the game to flow. That's Nottingham. This is Samways. Lineker. Can see Spurs' confidence rising now. Paul Stewart's brother Anthony in the crowd today will have enjoyed that goal. Last week at Liverpool at the end of the match, Paul ran to the crowd and threw his shirt in. I thought it was because he might be leaving Spurs. In fact, it was because he's promised his brother his shirt. And I know his two children are watching as well.
Thoroughly deserved goal for him as well, because he played very well in the first 45 minutes, and he started to make more forward runs to give support to Gary Lineker, and it paid off.
That was forward by Charles. This is Vinnie Samways working well. Stewart again. Still Stewart. It was Keane who pushed it across to Parker, but won back for Spurs by Lineker. Now it's Van den Hauwe, Tottenham's best spell, surely. Lineker goes again. Across comes Walker. Good challenge. Well, the match has now settled down into a typical Tottenham Forest pattern. First one team coming forward, stringing the passes together along the ground, and then the other. And those fans a lot happier now. 55th minute when Paul Stewart equalised for Spurs. And here he is again. Nigel Clough comes in with a challenge. Stewart shakes him off. He's so strong. And Paul Allen on the run. Lineker in the middle, waiting for a cross. Good challenge by the Forest captain. That was Clough who lost it slightly in midfield. And Pearce who quickly made up for it. We've been playing an hour. It's 1-1 in the cup final. Samways for Spurs. Mabbott. Allen now. Both the fullbacks in the Tottenham attack. Van den Hauwe and now Edinburgh. Our information is that there's going to be a Nottingham Forest substitution in the not-too-distant future. And it could just be that, well, it's going to be Steve Hodge, that's for sure. Could be Ian Wone that comes off. They could push Parker onto the left, we shall see. This is Allen, good turn. He's having a good second half, Paul Allen. Well, Wone not really in the game at the moment. This is Stewart, because Spurs are definitely dominant in this period. This is Sedgley, offside flag against Naeem. Yes, it's going to be Ian Wone. And the man replacing him, Steve Hodge, who is a current England player and also played for Spurs in their last cup final against Coventry City. Ian Wone in his first full season, and Steve Hodge, a seasoned player, takes his place. Now, will Hodge play on the left? And will they keep Parker where he is? There are two alternatives here for Forest, but Hodge has gone to the left at the moment. Glover. And again. Hodge.
Well, I totally agree with the substitution. I think Vinnie Samways, in particular with Paul Stewart, dominating the midfield area. But I'm surprised if Steve Hodge stays out on the left. I would have brought him in the centre and moved Gary Parker. But as you say, at present he is going to line up on the left.
And that's Lineker chasing that pass from Naeem. And it's still Lineker. And Allen's following up here for Spurs. And they're giving the Forest defence a bit of a chasing in this 10-15 minute spell at Tottenham. Lineker was away there. It was a well-hit pass from Naeem. Here's Sedgley coming out of the back four again, as he has on several occasions today, making the extra man. Stewart again. And it's Sedgley once more. Well, Forest had pulled everybody back then to help, including Nigel Clough, who's now trying to get them moving. Hodge, Stewart, Van den Hauwe. Spurs seem to have played with a renewed zest since they scored. Samways. This is Glover. I think Van den Hauwe's challenge has been adjudged a foul. There's Wone. This is Hodge. Tucked into Glover. Hodge again. And now Glover. And still Hodge. Here's Crosby. And it comes to Naeem. Naeem's got two to his left. This is Samways. Lineker in the middle. All collected by Crossley.
Great piece of play by Naeem, who's got better and better as the match has come on, and a good ball to Samways unselfishly across the goal. It was just a little bit under-paced and allowed Crossley to get to it, but brave dive by him.
Well, Gascoigne on his way to hospital by ambulance, but there's a healthy look about the Spurs team he's left behind just at the moment. 20 minutes gone in the second half. It's 1-1. But if Forest had the edge before half-time, Tottenham has certainly got it now. This is Howells. And now it's Van den Hauwe. Lineker, offside flag is up against Allen. Here's Parker. Hodge. Keane. There was nobody there to play the 1-2 with, really. Here's to Chettle. And now Parker. Forward by Charles. Keane. It's come to Crosby. That's a foul. Naeem was bundled over. Well, the day started out very much around the two characters, one on each side. One has gone injured, the other is sitting on the second row of the Forest bench alongside Ronnie Fenton and Alan Hill. But he has no way of knowing, and neither do we, which way this cup final is going to go next. Whether his dream will finally be realised or not. Or whether Terry Venables will win his first major domestic trophy in English football. Here's Mabbott. On by Lineker. Wouldn't come down for Naeem. Sedgley. Wiseman's flag is up, but the free kick goes against Gary Lineker. Here's Parker for Forest. Keane. Again, good movement from midfield, first by Forest and then by Spurs. Stewart finding Allen. He's on his own on this side of the pitch. They're all the other way for Paul Allen. But here comes Naeem. Allen again. Stewart. Turned by Gary Charles. You played, of course, with Paul Allen in the cup final, didn't you, for West Ham? He's having a good match today.
Well, he, of course, was the ill-fated Willie Young tackle laid on. Otherwise, he looked set to score a goal that day. But he's gradually matured very well at Spurs, because when I think he first went to the club, he was a little bit overawed of big clubs and big names around him. But he's got better and better. And in the semi-final against Arsenal again today, when you consider he's against Stuart Pearce, a fierce competitor, he's held his own very well and helped create, of course, that opening vital equaliser for Spurs.
Which is how it stands now at 1-1, and the scorer, Paul Stewart, on the ball. Oh, Walker drove that straight against Samways, but there was already an offside flag up. Vinny Samways, whose opportunity to get back into the Tottenham team really came when Gascoigne was out with that operation. Well, he's now running the midfield again. Here's Parker doing the same when he can for Forest. Glover. Oh, offside. Hodge.
Steve Hodge, so effective getting into those late runs into the penalty area. He'll find it more difficult, though, playing in that wider left-hand role. you know, it's a long way to get then and to time the run properly. Spurs like to hold their line on the 18-yard box, and on that occasion he was a couple of yards offside.
Well, as you saw there are 20 minutes left of the 90. Samways. Walker away from Lineker, only as far as Naeem. Away by Pearce. Howells. Good strong run by David Howells, the pass not so good.
David Howells, I haven't seen a lot of him in the game because he's been centering around Nigel Clough, but the fact that we're seeing so few of those perceptive passes of Nigel Clough shows how effective he has been in that anchor roller, picking him up when he comes deep.
That was the way Terry Venables chose to play, because he felt that Nigel Clough was the pivotal player in the Forest attacking formation. Lineker, Howells. Sun coming out now at Wembley. Samways. He gets so many good touches. That's what's so attractive about both these teams. There's some good adroit skill on the ball from players all over the pitch. They can use the long ball as well occasionally. There's Naeem. Chettle. Clough is currently tying up his boot and out of the proceedings, so it's Glover. Now Clough's up again. Parker. Challenge was by Stewart, a good one. Here's Samways. Lineker's off down the middle, has to be careful about the offside. Stewart wins it back again for Spurs. In goes Parker. And then a flying challenge by Howells. Forward by Parker, Hodges there. Here comes Glover. Away by Sedgley, back in again by Walker. Howells this time, now Sedgley. Keane, and it's Crosby. Clough. Van den Hauwe going down the right, outside Allen.
Another feature of the game which has helped the game flow is how many times the goalkeepers have thrown the ball out to defenders and start the attacks from there. Quite often, sometimes in our games in the league, we see the long ball from the goalkeeper, even the goalkeeper coming out 10, 15 yards to hit it long, but it's been good to see the build-up right from the back through the midfield today from both sides.
I think that reflects the philosophy of the two managers. Here's Walker, Charles. Chettle. Oh, they've got a space here, it's Glover. Good block by Van den Hauwe. Oh, Glover, lovely turn. And Hodges in there. Nice skill from Lee Glover, who's only 21 and come back from 2 bad injuries. The Forest coaching staff didn't think at one time that Glover and Clough could play together because they were too similar. But they were very pleased with Glover's display in the semi-final, and it's stayed that way since. You can see Archie Gemmill, Liam O'Kane down there in front of the manager. Handball by Paul Stewart. Brian Laws is the other Nottingham Forest substitute, and there are 15 minutes left in the normal period. Steve Sedgley for Tottenham. Roy Keane for Forest. And an argument has ensued between Keane and Edinburgh. And Sedgley being told to leave the scene by the referee. There was a little disagreement and a semi-scuffle there after the cross by Keane had floated away. The two young players we featured really at the very start of the afternoon there, the youngest on either side, was getting carried away.
Roger Milford, quite right, just saying to Justin Edinburgh, as you were walking away, I saw the little back heel, which aggravated Roy Keane. Just leave it alone, let's get on with the game.
Was Chettle. Stewart. Allen back to Vanden Hauwe. Into Stewart. And now Hodge for Forest. He's always played well against Tottenham since he went back to Forest. And here's Keane finding Crosby. And they need people making strides in the middle now, Forest. And Crosby goes past Sedgley. And then Howells comes over and a corner is given. There aren't too many tall players in the Forest team to make the most of corner kicks, but Steve Chettle is up. Flick on by Keane, Clough is there, and there was some pushing. Walsh still wondering if he'll get his chance.
Difficult, both managers not sure whether to make another change as the minutes tick away, but they both realise that a goal conceded at this stage could be terminal, and they certainly won't want to go behind it, but it's a little bit cagey, people not wanting to risk going forward, leaving people the wrong side if the move breaks down, and it's a tense time as the minutes tick away to the 90 minutes.
Lee Glover got an accidental bang in the face there from Steve Sedgley, and so Liam O'Kane is on. Now I think here you'll see the sad moment when Paul Gascoigne left Wembley, being carried on a stretcher into the ambulance tunnel. And this was not the farewell to either the cup final or to Tottenham that everybody had in mind for Paul Gascoigne. John Sheridan down there, the Tottenham physiotherapist, and a lot of anxious faces. And we await to hear exactly how bad the damage is, but it's certainly a knee ligament injury. Without him, Spurs have found a way back into the final. And while Lee Glover receives treatment, it might be worth just pointing out that 7 times in the last 10 FA Cup finals, the game has gone to extra time. Terry Venables was involved in one against Spurs for Queen's Park Rangers. So will the royal party be staying a bit longer than they expected? Or are we going to have some drama in the next few minutes? In this cathedral of cup final memories called Wembley Stadium. This today is the 63rd such match to be played here. And they've not seen their team in an FA Cup final since 1959, and they're making the most of it. Samway's outside him, Lineker the other way. Samways comes back inside. Spurs, a club who've always, down the years, tended to buy their star players. Vincent Samway is one of those who they always hoped would come through the ranks. Been with the club since he was a schoolboy, and perhaps this season beginning to show signs that that potential has developed. Ten minutes to go of the 90, and it looks as though Paul Walsh may be in the action soon. Here's Crosby. This is Hodge. Again, Sedgley the man who breaks up the Forest attack, and Spurs have a spare man up now. It's Sedgley himself, in fact. Pearce beats Stewart. And now Sedgley's out of position. This is Glover. Howells has gone back to cover for him. Offside against Clough. And Vinnie Samways, having run himself into the ground, is the man who will be replaced by Paul Walsh. Looks as if he's struggling.
I think when he hit his shot just now, he pulled up with a touch of cramp, and he played very well, those Samways. Paul Walsh, of course, the sort of player who likes to run with the ball as well, take people on. And let's see if he can get back into the action. He's done very well when he's come on as substitute on a number of games I've seen for Spurs this season.
Yes, one of the great characters of the Tottenham dressing room, Paul Walsh, former Liverpool player. He's on wearing number 12. Here's Keane for Forest. Charles. It's Walsh, and he gets the free kick. Howells. Lineker pulls away. He's got Walsh to play up with him now. A bit more company up there for the England captain. But he's been penalised for handball there.
Been a good tussle between Lineker and Des Walker. Lineker's running off the ball is terrific to watch for any young striker, and Des Walker's pace has been very needed in his experience to read all the runs that he's made.
Well, we're 8 minutes away from extra time if nobody scores in that period. It's the Forest fans who are giving their team full backing now. Clough. Crosby. Some space here for Gary Parker. It's a lovely little bit of skill from Nigel Clough, and he was tripped by Paul Stewart. The way Clough turned away from the first challenge said everything about his football brain. He thinks so quickly. If he can't run that as fast as some of the other players, he certainly thinks faster. Look at the way he got away from the first challenge, and then Stewart brought him down. Now, having seen what Pearce did from a free kick in the first half, one wonders what might happen in the wall this time. Glover is mixing it in there again. If the angle isn't quite what Pearce wants, Parker can also float them. That's Glover with the patch over the eye. He did the pushing earlier. And that's come off the wall. Parker had the shot, it was deflected, and it's a corner. Chettle's in there. Parker again. That could have gone anywhere.
Parker taking a free kick, I think, as you say, because it was more central, a bit to the left, favoured a right footer, and perhaps anticipating that Torsfeld might be expecting Pearce to come, but it didn't have the pace, and it clipped off the top of the ball. And that last one, then he followed his shot across the face of the goal, and as the minutes tick away, it looks as if we are going to have extra time, doesn't it, Dora? By saying that, am I going to tempt fate?
Certainly there has been excitement at the end of quite a few cup finals down the years, and I believe His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales was here the year that Arsenal and Manchester United produced 3 goals in the last 5 minutes, so who knows what might happen. Supporters of both sides lending great flavour to this Wembley occasion. Even though many Law fans couldn't get tickets. 21,000 or thereabouts here from each club. I rather think they could have sold twice that many each. This is Parker for Forest. On by Lineker. Here comes Stewart. Well, that challenge was by Steve Hodge on Paul Stewart. Nottingham Forest not usually involved in that sort of tackle, but Steve Hodge, against his old club, certainly leaving his mark here on Paul Stewart, and that was late.
Always going to be a yard behind Paul Stewart. Stevie Hodge once committed, he decided to go in. And Paul Stewart laying down in a little break, but I'm sure Spurs supporters wouldn't endear him. That tackle, Stevie Hodge, of course, previously there, then having left, so it wasn't high on their popularity list anyway. That tackle wouldn't have helped.
Spurs with both substitutes on, of course. Forest still have Brian Laws if they need him. Well, they won the European Cup twice under Brian Clough. Lots of League Cups. The League Championship. Are they going to win the FA Cup, which Spurs have won on 7 occasions? Stewart is back in business, and Spurs have the free kick to be taken by Pat van den Hauwe. Howells is forward, and so is Sedgley. 2.5 minutes to go. Oh, Crossley didn't seem too confident on that. He poured it a bit, rather than claiming it. This is Mabbott. Edinburgh. Stewart. Howells. Stewart again. Lineker's waiting. Tries to play a 1-2 with Stewart. The foot in was by Walker. Walsh can just let the ball run, which he does, for a corner. Naeem will take this, and up they come Howells, Sedgley and Mabbott. Sedgley at the back, but it fell quite nicely for Clough to Keane, and look where Eric Torsvets had to come to meet Lee Glover. Away by Edinburgh. Linesman signals that it took a deflection. It's a Spurs throw.
Terry Venables probably noticed just now his team were caught a bit short on that counter-attack from Forest, and a good ball by Roy Keane because they had an extra man, but in fact he put it too far ahead and Torsveld was able to come out, and certainly the second's ticking away now.
Just a minute in fact, Trevor, and then we shall be into extra time. Here's Howells, looking for Lineker. He had 2 to beat, and pulled up Gary Lineker as though he may have strained a thigh there. Here's Crosby. Howells switched across to the other side for van den Hauwe. Well, we're now moving into stoppage time. Here's Walsh. Lineker's waiting in the centre, but the ball never looked like reaching him. It was away by Walker. Walsh. Walker again. Corner. This could be the last opportunity either side has to settle it in 90 minutes. Naeem, with Lineker waiting on the line, has gone across to take a corner for which Mabbutt comes striding forward for Spurs, which suggests it might be an outswinger. They've got Sedgley there too. Howells is in there. Oh, clawed away by Crossley.
Remember him scoring against Forest in the league, up at Forest with a similar type of header, but on that occasion it was a combination of Crossley and on the line I think it was Gary Parker who got it away, and certainly a goal then, and that would have been the cup for Spurs.
Instead, it's 30 minutes of extra time, quite a common occurrence in recent Wembley finals, and just wonder whether Paul Gascoigne will be watching this in hospital, but Terry Venables' team came back without him to turn things round in the second half. And now will Brian Clough get some words across to his team, but perversely he sits on the bench, does not move, feels no need to go over and say anything, and he leaves it to Archie Gemmell and Liam O'Kane. Well, they say that Forest don't believe in too many detailed team talks. They're not a side that are very bothered about tactics, so the manager says, I pay you, you get on with it. Whereas Terry Venables, being a different sort of animal, will definitely want to make some telling tactical points to his team. And what might they be, Trevor Brooking?
Well, Terry Venables, I think, will be delighted the way his side came back in the second half. They totally dominated, I thought, that 45 minutes, got the equaliser and always looked the more likely sort of team perhaps to win it. But Forest, a little bit tired and never quite got the movement and numbers forward. And let's see if they can raise their game in extra time.
Well, let's see if we can just look back while we're waiting to what were the key moments here. This was the free kick for Forest, in which Glover pushes Mabbutt out of the way of the wall and Pearce steers it with power right round them into the top corner away from Torsvet. That gave Forest the lead on 16 minutes. That's how it was at half-time, but now 10 minutes into the second half, here's Paul Allen drawing Des Walker. Stuart Pearce is out of position there, he's still making his way back. That gave Stuart the space he required, but this is a clinical finish by Paul Stewart through Gary Charles' legs. Goalkeeper given no chance to save. And with that 1-1 score, Wembley was again plunged into extra time, and their Royal Highnesses are certainly, I won't say getting their money's worth, but certainly seem to be enjoying their afternoon. I don't know whether Brian Clough's enjoying his. He hasn't had an awful lot to say, but I'm just wondering where the Forest manager has gone now. I'm told he's having a conversation with a policeman. Yes, exactly that. Or a... Well, there you are. Super cool, eh? I'd rather talk to the policeman than talk to his players.
Well, you never expect him to do, as I say, the expected, but it is amazing, extra time that he didn't bother. I think they probably get the waves going across from him, one or two looks, and that's enough to lift the team.
I understand that in the Scottish FA Cup final, it's extra time as well there between Dundee United and Motherwell. But I'm not going to spoil it for you by telling you the exact score. Dundee United trying to win the Scottish Cup for Jim McLean at the 6th attempt. They're into an extra period against his brother Tommy's team, Motherwell, at Hampden Park. I think Paul Walsh has found a way of keeping his hair in order there as we start the extra period. There he is, Walsh. A fresh player, might give Forest a few things to think about. Here's Allen. Forward by Sedgley. Shettle. Hodge. A few catcalls from the Spurs supporters towards their former player, and he was shocked by Steve Sedgley anyway. Pearce takes the free kick short to Hodge. Keane waiting in the centre. It's not particularly good pass. Glover was too close to Hodge, really.
Hodge changed his mind there, but although Brian Clough didn't walk out to talk to his team, he has one tactical change up his sleeve, because Hodge is now playing centrally alongside Keane, and Gary Parker has moved out to the left, as we thought they would do when he first came on, but he kept him out on the left, but now he's much, I should think, happier himself in that central position.
And Spurs have obviously got Walsh now playing right upfield with Lineker, which means an extra striker and perhaps one less in midfield. Anyway, here's Naeem to take the free kick. Paul Stewart is in the heart of it there. Mabbutt is going as well, and Howells. His header back across the goal. And Lineker forces the corner. Vandenhouw. Here comes Walsh. That's looping a bit. Hit the bar. Extraordinary. From Paul Walsh, who can't believe his luck. The goalkeeper's injured. But this was a real looper from the left side by Paul Walsh over Crossley against the crossbar, and the keeper hurt as he fell behind the line. Well, how close can you be? They might well be reflecting on that.
See what happens when you wet your hair, you see. You wouldn't have probably got that. There he is, above Gary Charles. Mark Crossley caught at the near post, having to backpedal. He's never going to get the touch to it. Hits the crossbar, and as you see, his side, his back crashes into the far post. And the magic spray, whatever that might be, not having much luck at the moment.
Certainly he beat Gary Charles very well here in the air, Paul Walsh, and he wasn't quick enough backpedaling, was he, Mark Crossley? Corner to Spurs. In goes Stewart. Oh, a chance at the far side, and it's in! An own goal, I think.
I think it was Des Walker actually got the last touch.
It went in off a Forest player, and Spurs are in the lead for the first time in this cup final from the corner. And Des Walker has the misfortune to put the ball in his own net to give Tottenham the lead after 4 minutes of extra time. Allen to Lineker. Vandenhouw. This is Allen. Stewart. And Keane out to Crosby. Well, Forest now have to come from behind. Clough. Oh, you've got to feel sorry for Des Walker.
He knew Gary Mabbutt was coming behind him, had to get a touch and tried to head it away for a corner the other side, but found the net, unfortunately.
2-1 then to Tottenham. And Stuart Pearce places the ball for what could be another dangerous free kick. Cannons off the wall. Well, Spurs have got a real chance now. An own goal cost Tottenham the cup 4 years ago against Coventry. Now an own goal has put them in front. And scored by a player who was once a Tottenham junior, Des Walker. Here's Walsh. Looking for Lineker. Pearce just gets to it, stretching. Parker. And again. This is Clough. Chettle. Pearce. Pearce is crossed low and well cut out by Steve Sedgley. Parker to take the corner for Forest. Half away by Edinburgh. Pearce is in there, appeals for a foul and hands, and a free kick finally given to Tottenham. Well, Des Walker has never scored a goal in his senior career for Nottingham Forest at the right end, but he's got one today, sadly for him, at the wrong end. And look at that. He put that header right in the corner. And it'll be something he'll have to live with like Gary Mabbott 4 years ago if there's no further scoring. Seven minutes gone in the first period of extra time. Well, I don't suppose either manager expected to see either side take the lead quite like that. Makes something of a nonsense of any tactical planning, except, of course, to say that if the corner is delivered properly, it forces defenders sometimes to do not what they intended. Here's Parker. Stewart. Allen. Spurs 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Tottenham having come from behind to take the lead. And having lost their chief midfield figure so early in the game, you have to give credit to the way the rest of them have performed and the way that they've overhauled a Forest team who played exceedingly well before half-time. Here's Stewart, who's had a wonderful match, really. So involved in everything Tottenham have done, going one way and back towards his own goal too. Here's Naeem. Edinburgh. The matches between these two clubs have tended to fluctuate so much that you wouldn't put it past Forest to find a way back here. Certainly they'll be coming forward and trying to force Tottenham into errors now. And as tiredness creeps in extra time, there's more likelihood of mistakes. 5 minutes left in the first period. This is Stuart Pearce. Steve Hodge. Charles.
Younger team, Forest, and they're just a bit anxious, suddenly finding themselves behind. They're trying to rush things and giving the ball away. And at the moment, Spurs are coping quite comfortably with that 2-1 lead. And at present, Forest finding it difficult to even look dangerous, let alone score the second goal.
It was almost a forwards header, wasn't it, that Des Walker produced there? Anyway, Spurs are on the attack again, and that's a foul by Pearce on Allen. So the Tottenham supporters starting to feel it could be their 8th FA Cup triumph, which would be a record in a season when there's been so much turmoil, but there's still some way to go here, still some football to be played. And I wouldn't rule out Forest at this stage by any means. Vanden Hauwe to take the kick. That's Mabbott. Away by Hodge. Here comes Stewart. Up by Keane. Stewart again. Allen. Nobody off our side for Spurs. This is Charles. Now Forest need to get players forward now from midfield. This is Keane. Charles goes again from right back, and he seemed to be impeded there on the edge of the area by Justin Edinburgh, but the referees saw nothing wrong with the collision. Felt Forest were a bit unfortunate there not to get a free kick. So is Brian Clough's 34th attempt at the FA Cup as a player and a manager going to be another abortive one now? He's looking for his young team to lift themselves again here. Paul Walsh has made a bit of a difference. It was his header that caused the corner from which the own goal came, and now we have a corner again for Spurs. Taken by Naeem. Howells is up with the goalkeeper. Nigel Clough, a good turn. He really threw Pat Vanden Hauwe. Now, if he can find the man on the right, Forest could be in business, but he couldn't. There wasn't enough weight on the pass.
But that man who was getting back was Paul Allen, and getting a terrific ovation from the Spurs fans. He's non-stop action. You know, just saw suddenly Forest had a glimmer of an extra man, and there he is. It was him chasing back, and I think along with Paul Stewart, they've been the two outstanding players for Spurs.
Yes, there have been some good personal performances on both sides today. Here's Keane. Forward by Charles. That's Mabbott. Approaching the end of the first period of extra time, and Tottenham Hotspur's proud record in FA Cup finals at this stage of the afternoon looks as though it will be extended. And for the first time today, and I wouldn't mention it before now, one has to say that their supporters will be talking yet again about there being a 1 at the end of the year. By now, you all know what that means. Pearce. This is Keane. Gary Crosby. Sedgley again, made some good interceptions. This is Charles, and that's one from Naeem. You need somebody to find here. Lineker's making a run across the pitch now. Walsh is in support. He's got Allen to his right, and they'll need someone else in the middle now. Walsh again. Well, Walker concedes this next corner, and we'll be hoping that it doesn't turn out the way the last one on this side did for him. We're in stoppage time at the end of the first 15 minutes of extra time. 2-1 to Spurs. And there's some tired players out there now, that's for sure. It's Naeem to take the corner. Mabbutt arriving. That was a very good defensive header by Des Walker. I wish he'd done that the previous time. Here's Crosby. So they turn round with the score. Tottenham Hotspur 2, Nottingham Forest 1.
And I think the way they've came back, in the second half and then in the first period of extra time, does suggest that Spurs do deserve now to have edged clear, and it's a case of whether Forest can lift themselves in this last 15 minutes.
Well, there's the man whose inadvertent header, or at least where it went was inadvertent, has changed the course of this cup final. Des Walker diving in to try and stop Gary Mabbutt, I think. That was who he was trying to head the ball away from, and he succeeded in planting it exactly where Mabbutt would have put it, or hoped to put it, in the top corner of the net. So the Tottenham fans were suitably lifted by that. They didn't mind where the goal was coming from as long as it was at that end. And it's given them the edge now in an FA Cup final which started with them going a goal behind and losing Gascoigne. The afternoon has now turned, as so many FA Cup ties do, and Forest have got to try to rescue themselves now in the last 15 minutes. Well, we had drama in extra time last year, Crystal Palace and Manchester United, with Liverpool and Everton the year before, with Spurs and Coventry, so it's quite commonplace at Wembley. That's Mabbutt to Stewart. As Forest push on, as they have to do, I see Chettle's struggling a bit now, he's hobbling. They're going to leave one or two gaps, I would think, for Tottenham to try and exploit on the counter. Usually in extra time that happens because players just can't get back quickly. This is David Howes to Paul Walsh. Walsh with Chettle. Away by Walker. Stewart, and that's a foul by Hodge. And whatever Terry Venables said at half-time in the normal period had something of an effect on this cup final, I'm pretty certain, because it changed from that moment on. So it'll be Vanden Hauwe to take this. Mabbutt's up. Stewart! Oh, just off the side of his head. Brian Law's getting prepared. Several candidates in terms of tiredness to come off. I would imagine Lee Glover, because they've got the number 10 out over there, and that looks like it's switched now. That ball is in play at the moment, so the referee's having to take it back. Brian Laws is 29, England B international, and he was left out for Gary Charles today. He's come on now it would appear on the right-hand side of midfield. Parker. Hodge. Through for Keane, and just touched back by Paul Stewart. That was a timely interception and a necessary one to stop Roy Keane.
Substitution, Brian Law's going out, as you say, to play wide right in the midfield. I suppose it's a case when Brian Clough would have liked to have had Nigel Jemson on the bench just to bring in an extra attacker. What he's had to do is push Gary Crosby down the middle with Nigel Clough.
Stewart there, Paul Stewart, challenging Stuart Pearce. Quick free kick taken, Shettle, Hodge. Well played, Paul Walsh. And the Spurs end of the stadium buoyant at the moment. Here's Keane. Naeem to Walsh. This is Stewart. There goes Lineker. Oh, and the ball just slowed up there on Walker, and Lineker took advantage, but he's in a corner now. Not that should worry Tottenham too much, because time is obviously on their side in this second period of extra time. Spurs, whose league form has been so fitful, have got the initiative here against a Forest team who were taking all before them in their last few matches. But it doesn't always work that way on the day at Wembley. Paul Stewart now feeling the effects of nearly 2 hours football. Naeem. Howells to Edinburgh. Actually, the referee seems to be feeling the effects of it too, Trevor. He wasn't got one of the fittest men in the business, Roger Milford. He was just taking a little breather there. Just been given a one-year extension by the Football League, which just goes to show if you keep yourself in trim, you can now referee way beyond the prescribed retirement age, as it used to be. But Paul Stewart, probably one of the fittest men around today. He's found Naeem. That was a bad challenge. That was Steve Hodge, and Roger Milford, who just picked up somebody's shin guard, throws that away and goes to his pocket for the first time this afternoon. This is going to be the first booking of the FA Cup final, and it goes to Steve Hodge, the substitute, showing frustration against his former club. Actually, it is his second offence, Steve Hodge, and I think that may be the reason why Roger Milford shows him the yellow card.
I think Steve Hodge trying to point out that he felt Naeem made a meal of it, which he probably did a bit, but I think it's a combination of the two. The one on the Paul Stewart before, and that one, two combined, was worth a yellow card.
So, deep into extra time here. That's the position in the 1991 FA Cup final. Spurs on the verge of winning the trophy for the 8th time, which would be an outright record, taking them beyond Aston Villa and Manchester United. And in a season when just about everything has gone wrong at Tottenham off the field, and the talk has been of takeovers and bank debts and so on, Terry Venables is here within touching distance of a playing achievement, which in the light of what else has happened would be a considerable one.
And if it does happen, one wonders whether he'll have the opportunity to test his tactics in Europe next year, or what's going to develop in the next few days.
Yes, a lot of Tottenham futures are about to be resolved after this. Terry Venables, of course, being one of them. Paul Gascoigne's immediate future is in hospital, and Gary Lineker too, and one or two others Still don't quite know where they're going to be at the start of next season, but they may all have an FA Cup medal to take with them if they go. Or are we writing off Nottingham Forest too early? This is Brian Laws, he's just come on. Walker's header. Oh, Walsh puts Lineker. Oh, he's offside. Offside. Well, a lot of players out there are feeling the pace now. They're really drained. This is Laws, though. Clough's waiting in the centre, Forest. Deflection slightly on the cross gives Forest a corner. They're not finished yet. Chettle and Pearce. Both forward. Pearce is in the thick of it. Here's Charles! That one fizzed through the crowd, but down on the Forest bench they must be starting to feel now that the chance has gone. Unlucky in two semi-finals in the last few seasons, Nottingham Forest. Are they going to go away empty-handed? Well, not quite empty-handed, but with losers' medals today. Five minutes to go in the cup final. David Howe to Tottenham. Good challenge coming in from Gary Charles. Chettle. Charles. Pearce.
Paul Allen jogging back there again, then Stuart Pearce, who normally, especially when Forest have been down in cup games this season, has ventured forward on a number of occasions, has held back today. Perhaps, I don't know whether it's something to do with the fact that he was taken off in the recent league game when they beat Leeds 4-3, because Brian Clough felt he was venturing forward too often.
Well, Spurs 4 minutes away from Terry Venables' major achievement in this country. He won a league championship at Barcelona, but hasn't won any of the big three here until today, perhaps. Stewart gives it away, and here's Clough. Now they might have an opportunity here, Forest. It was Crosby who had the run down the left. Sedgley, who I would add to the players Trevor's mentioned on the Tottenham side, who've had a very good game. Here's Pearce, urging Forest forward again. Parker tries to return it to him. This is Walsh. Chettle in the way. What an irony it would be if this cup final, like Spurs' last one, was settled by a rather spectacular own goal. Pearce takes the free kick. Lineker touches it out wide to Paul Allen. Walsh is down the right. Oh, well played, but Walker wanting to set Forest off on one last attempt to save this cup final. There are 2 minutes to go here. Spurs lead 2-1. Crosby's gone to the left now. Free kick. Is it, or Walsh has certainly went in with the tackle. And we're close to the end now. Now it's a throw. Half away by Mabbutt. Chettle. Flags up. The flag's up on this side. Those two young players have been at each other for quite some time. Roy Keane and Justin Edinburgh. And there are one or two gestures there not worthy of the cup final. But the Spurs fans have now decided that this is as good as one. There's a terrific ovation going on as well from the Forest fans, who are doing their best to stay behind their team right to the end. Lineker. Howells. Walsh. Howells again. Outside him, Vanden Hauwe. Lineker. We're now into stoppage time at the end of extra time, and Spurs are within touching distance now of the FA Cup. The Forest fire seems to have faded. They're virtually burnt out. Spurs have got stronger as the game has gone along, and Forest's young side have faded. Chettle, and it doesn't look as though Brian Clough is going to get his hands on the FA Cup after all. This is Walsh. And Paul Gascoigne is going to get a winner's medal, even though he's not here to receive it, it would seem. Here's Stewart. Spurs just keeping possession now. Allen. Vanden Hauwe. Walsh. Played by him. Lineker's through the middle. This is Howells. Every pass now being cheered by the North London supporters as Lineker goes on a little run and he finds Allen. They haven't got many players up there because they're really trying not to make a silly mistake, but Paul Stewart has done just that. And is there left time for one last assault by the Forest? Here comes Laws. It's never over until the final whistle. Naeem has got the ball. Oh, he's given it away straight to Laws. And Spurs not distinguishing themselves in trying to keep possession. They do better just to play normally, I would think. Here's Walsh. And there it is. Tottenham Hotspur have won the FA Cup for a record 8th time. And Brian Clough has failed at his 34th attempt with Des Walker's own goal, unluckily for him, being decisive in extra time. Terry Venables triumphant at the end of a season when there has been so much backroom turmoil. The Tottenham chairman taking the congratulations and Walker takes the commiserations. Nobody would want to be in his shoes tonight. It's a really distressing way to lose a cup final, as it was for Mabbutt 4 years ago. But it's Spurs who are celebrating their 8th FA Cup win takes them clear of Manchester United and Aston Villa and takes them into the European Cup Winners' Cup next season. And Brian Clough has not moved as the Spurs staff, Ray Clements among them, savour the moment. As usual, the great contrast in emotions here. Spurs jubilant and Forest crestfallen. Paul Stewart a candidate for man of the match, but there were one or two on the Tottenham side. I'm sure Terry Venables would agree. In this mood of celebration at the Tottenham end, your thoughts, Trevor Brooking?
I don't think in the end anyone could dispute that they got stronger as the match went on and thoroughly deserved to win in the end. Spurs, having lost Gascoigne, looked to have got a goal down, looked to be slipping away from them. They showed a lot of character. I thought Nottingham did well when he came on. Paul Stewart and Paul Allen were the two, I think, the outstanding players for them. Gary Mabbott, Steve Sedgley at the back, Gary Lineker's running off the ball up front, whereas the Forest younger players gradually became anxious, and once they went behind they couldn't lift their game, and in the end they were a well-beaten side.
So Stuart Pearce will lead Nottingham Forest as the Tottenham captain Gary Mabbott goes around to congratulate the others. Stuart Pearce is the first up the steps with Nottingham Forest. Perhaps on the day their young side, and it was a very young team that Brian Clough selected, didn't quite have the mettle for the occasion, not after half-time anyway, after Pearce had given them a very encouraging start. Conducted themselves with great dignity and charm this season, Nottingham Forest, in the football they've played, and they will accept defeat, I'm sure, with great dignity and decency, because they're that sort of team. Another losers medal there for Steve Hodge, and everybody feeling sorry for Des Walker, I'm sure. Nigel Clough, whose influence was subdued by the Tottenham tactics. The goalkeeper who saves a penalty and yet still finishes on the losing side. Crosby, Gary Charles, Lee Glover and Ian Wone, who came off up to receive their losers medals, and Roy Keane too. Disappointment, but his time will come again, I'm sure. And now Gary Mabbott, one of the finest ambassadors for the game, a captain who's overcome great personal difficulties with his diabetes. This surely his happiest moment in his 10 years as a Tottenham player. Spurs have won the FA Cup for a record 8th time. Princess of Wales joining in the congratulations, and Brian Clough walks away a defeated man. The first major medal, this, in the celebrated careers of players like Lineker and Gascoigne. Of course, Paul Gascoigne's medal will have to be passed on to him. He's somewhere in hospital, maybe even watching these pictures. There's Gary Lineker, never won a league or cup medal in this country before. And he still hasn't won the FA Cup, but he has time to salute the Nottingham Forest faithful. Terry Venables really allowing his emotions to run now, and rightly so. And There's the fella that you have to feel the most sympathy for. Who would wish the cup final to be settled by an own goal? But it was, and Des Walker scored it.
So Spurs win the cup, but I suppose there was a 1 at the end of the year. And incidentally, north of the border, Motherwell have beaten Dundee United 4-3 after extra time as well. And we'll see highlights of that in Match of the Day tonight. And the lap of honour here, we'll see all that later on tonight. But a final comment before we go from the two guys here. Bob, final thought on what happened?
Well, absolutely deserved. Tottenham thoroughly deserved it. I don't think Nottingham Forest lived up to anything like they've been playing. I think they needed help from their leader, and at 90 minutes I think it was absolutely staggering that Brian Clough stayed on his backside.
Jimmy?
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I would say what a revelation it is for Spurs, the club, that they've proved today that there is life, or could be life, after Gascoigne. No one player is bigger than a football club, especially a club of that magnitude. And one wonders whether there could be life for Spurs after Terry Venables, because his performance as a manager was quite superb. He motivated his team perfectly. They outplayed Nottingham Forest from start to finish almost.
Jim, thank you very much indeed. So there we are. More of these pictures in Match of the Day at 10:20 tonight. So Brian Clough still hasn't won the cup. Gascoigne's in hospital. Spurs are in Europe. Cheerio.
Splendid shot by the Forest captain to give Brian Clough's team the lead in the cup final. Well, there were tears in Turin, and I'm sorry to say there are going to be more tears today. Stewart. Oh, it's a good ball to Lineker. A real opportunity here for Tottenham. Penalty. Dave Besant as a goalkeeper who saves a penalty in an FA Cup final. Extraordinary. Well, here's Paul Allen and Paul Stewart with a chance for Spurs. And the equaliser. In goes Stewart. Oh, a chance at the far side. And it's in. I think.
Congratulations, and it made up for 1987.
Yes, it certainly did. It was a tremendous feeling going up those steps, picking up the cup today, especially after the way the game started, obviously going behind from a shooter's free kick, then losing Paul with hopefully not too serious injury. And it really was an uphill struggle. First half, we threw a lot at them, and unfortunately, the keeper made a couple of good saves. We missed a penalty. But at half-time, we said, look, we're playing quite well, keep playing the same way, hopefully we'll get the same chances. And then we got a great chance second half when Paul Stewart went through, and then put it into extra time. And fortunately for us, unfortunately for Nottingham Forest, an own goal won it for us.
You know what Des Walker must be feeling?
Exactly. I mean, it was a terrible feeling for me after 1987. And the other thing for Des, I think I was coming in behind him, so I think I was just about to knock the ball into the net, and he got in front of me, headed it in for me. But I think he had to try and clear it, and unfortunately he went straight in the net.
Gary, many congratulations. They tell me the first medal you've actually won.
In England, won the Cup Winners' Cup and the Spanish Cup, but the FA Cup's so special. It's such a special day that I think this is certainly my best moment of football. It's fabulous.
Let's get rid of the bad moment you had in the first half. But did that set you back a lot?
Well, personally, it didn't do the world of good, but those things happen. You score some and you miss some. I would have felt a lot worse now if we'd have ended up losing, but I've not only got the feeling of immense joy, but of immense relief as well. So with those two emotions coupled, it makes it very special.
It was a great loss to us when we lost Paul Gascoigne. And as far as I'm concerned now, that goal and the cup belongs to him. Because he's played an important part, as far as I'm concerned, in the FA Cup this year. And as far as I'm concerned, that was for you guys.
Tell us about the goal.
I managed to find myself on the right getting forward. Paul Allen played a great ball. I knocked it on once and managed to bury it in the corner. And I've never experienced anything in my life as good as that goal.
Now tell us about the penalty save.
Well, I just made my mind up before he took it, which side I was going. Faded to go one way and went the other, got a good hand on it, and I thought I did quite well to keep it out.
Not bad, is it? You've joined the club that Bessington, isn't it? Bessington Youth saved penalties in cup finals at Wembley, but unfortunately you've ended up on the losing side.
Yeah, well, it's just one of them things, and we'll bounce back next year.
Well, perhaps they will and perhaps they won't. But Spurs deserve the win, Jim.
Without any doubt. Tactically, they won their tackles, they ran faster, they put their bodies in where it hurt, they passed better. It was an overwhelming win. I just felt that Forest were too young on the day. They'd let the occasion get to their legs, as sometimes can happen. Happened to me once in a semi-final, that somehow your legs don't belong to you. With Crosby, I think, and Wone particularly, and that's a fifth of the outfield players when you think about it, they could hardly put a foot right from start to finish. Very unfortunate. Their day will come again, but it certainly wasn't today. And I think the old fox, Mr. Venables, something you and I listened to about their central defenders marking man-to-man, I think he pulled them all over the field today and left room for those balls to be slotted in. So he won a tactical battle too.
Now, what about Gascoigne today? I mean, he came out like a bull in a china shop, didn't he?
We both think that he's a decent man at heart. You know, we both think that. We said so before the game. I do not know what demon got into him at the start of the game. I mean, Terry said, well, I tried to wind him up, but, I mean, you don't want to wind him up to the extent that this sort of thing happens. The first foul on Gary Parker, I'd like to make excuses and say he was following through with the ball, but the ball goes down and his foot goes up and straight into the middle of his chest. And
most unusual, that. I mean, I've never seen that before.
No, I've never seen a foul like that throughout football, but this one, in a way, was even worse. He just takes a fly kick at his shins, whack, and misses the ball. I think he had some idea of going in the direction of the ball, but quite honestly, you know, it is inexcusable. It's beyond the line over which professionals should not tread.
And what happened to him? He's brought upon himself, really, by that action.
He's suffered for it,
hasn't it?
He's suffered for it very badly. I mean, £8 million player. The most extreme reports saying that his future might be in doubt totally, but I would think that's not the case. I would think he's got a nasty injury.
Knee ligaments, we're told this evening. It's calmed down a little bit, not quite as serious as they first thought.
That can have immediate problems, and it can be long-term problems. If you stretch those ligaments from then onwards, the knee is not as sound and not as safe.
Well, certainly his immediate future will be in some doubt. I mean, the transfer to Lazio will be presumably postponed or in abeyance, or...
It's disastrous for Spurs because now they haven't got the player and they won't get the money. You know, so they desperately need the money to start the revival, the financial revival. And at the moment, they haven't got either. Let's hope that in a week or two they will have.
Well, they'll know a bit more about his injury tomorrow, of course. Yeah. Let's look at some of the other incidents in the match now. And,
the Pearce goal. I mean, quite extraordinary match, for instance. Just watch the way Lee Glover pushes Gary Mabbott right in the centre of the screen. There you are. Go to the right there so that my friend can whack the ball through that hole into the top of the net. Got away with it. I mean, you admire the accuracy of the shot, but not the ethics. Now this one, Gary Lineker thought he was onside, and he was. There's the moment the ball's kicked. Look at the grass across the pitch. He's level.
Onside.
Now he's in front, and now the linesman's flag goes up.
Yeah.
So
if the first one had been disallowed and that had been allowed, it would be 1-0 the other way.
Exactly. Now the penalty, where I think the referee was absolutely right. There's Lineker finding a hole through the middle again. No centre halves. And the goalkeeper does go for the ball. He's trying for it. He only misses it by 6 inches, but Gary's played it perfectly. He pushed it just the right distance wide of him. This, Bob Wilson said this afternoon, was just that bit off the floor which gave the goalkeeper the chance. That's a bit grudging. I think it was a great save anyway, and he deserves all the credit for that. Stewart's goal, the best goal of the game. really carved out by young Allen. He had a super game. Stewart, the man of the match, for you and I, Des, this afternoon, wasn't
That's
he?
right.
And just look here. He says, here's the chance, to win the game. And what a beautiful shot. But there is Gary Lineker in an offside position, not given, interfering. And lastly, Walker own goal. That Stewart heads it on. I think this was good defence. He beat Mabbott to it, but I think it was bad defence. Young Charles there on the line actually let it go. He was doing that. He's there to defend the goal. So I don't blame Walker to that extent, because I think he got there ahead of Mabbott. A lot of defenders would have been static, not read the flick on.
Unlucky
he was just
for him,
unlucky, he couldn't get it right.
He's a great player, and
he had a superb game, but one of very few good games in the Nottingham Forest team.
Right. Now, before the final, it was being billed as the Gascoigne-Clough final. We've talked about Gascoigne, an unhappy day for him. It'll have ended up not a very happy day for Clough. What do you feel about Brian Clough there today? He didn't play much part during the game in any kind of way, did he? Never spoke to the players. At the end of normal time, you would have expected perhaps a manager to come down and fire up the players, give them advice, tactically or otherwise. Nothing happened. He stayed up in the stand.
No. I mean, I am puzzled by that. You are puzzled by it. It is said that it's his way of managing. You can't grumble about that wonderful collection of young talent he has there coming up. And if that's his great strength in managing, it doesn't seem, if it's in giving the kind of team talk at half-time and at 90 minutes that Terry Venables gave. You know, we expect a manager to be in there, giving them renewed hope, picking on the odd thing that was going wrong, saying, look, don't worry about what's happening.
At that time.
I thought they needed someone, and I don't think they had the stimulation that might have helped them. To be very honest about it, I think they were gone anyway. I don't think words would have made a difference, because I think they were too young as a team. And as I say, the emotion took away their legs.
All right, Jim, thank you. Well, a marvellous result for Tottenham today, and David Davis travelled with their squad after the game.
Absolutely delighted.
These days, Cup final heroes can share their triumphs by phone on surely the best journey any footballer can take. From Wembley in triumph. A job had been well done, and everyone, not least a beaming manager, knew it. It was a time for quiet satisfaction for seasoned internationals like Gary Lineker, for more obvious jubilation from young players like David Howells. And as for the poor old cup, of course it got its usual treatment. Jubilation inside the bus was reciprocated outside, but of course one well-known voice and face just wasn't aboard, and first stop was to be hospital to see Paul Gascoigne. Paul Stewart took him his winner's medal, the captain took him the cup. In the pandemonium, the hospital confirmed their famous patient had serious ligament damage to his right knee, though tonight there is more optimism than there was earlier today.
He's a little sad. We've took the whole team back and went and saw him, showed him the cup, and he was happy and sad, and which is natural. And the lads really think a lot of him. They really do. He's got a lot of admiration from all the players, and they all wanted to go there. That's the first thing they thought about. And that's not always the case, and it was nice. It was good to see him.
How serious is the injury, as you understand it?
It's possible he's going to have an operation in the morning. I don't think it's as bad as it was first thought, but I'll leave that to the experts. I'm not qualified to say.
Well, I have to ask you where this leaves his possible move, or and Lazio and the Italians,
no,
all that sort of thing.
I would think it's in their lap now, because we was under the impression something may happen this week, and we've been fighting to try to stop that if we could. But this is obviously thrown the spanner in the works once again.
Tonight at London's Hilton Hotel, such concerns certainly aren't for a triumphant team. They'll relish the night and tomorrow's victory parade in North London as well. A short time ago, Terry Venables embraced Bill Nicholson, manager of the famous double team. A historic day for a famous club. But hard realities will still have to be faced.
I sincerely hope, and always have done, that Gascoigne will play for Spurs next season. I've always felt that, and I've made my public position clear that if Gascoigne leaves, I will leave the club myself anyway. There's no doubt about that, and I said that months and months and months ago, and I would carry that out.
So do you now feel the likelihood is he will stay or that he'll go?
This moment in time, I mean, Gaz had got a terrible injury today. I think he's in hospital at the moment, and I think we'll have to look at the medical reports first, but I sincerely hope he does stay.
And Lineker?
Oh, Lineker, I mean, some stories that reach the newspapers. I've got an idea how they get there, but I'm afraid to say that, you know, perhaps people are trying to undermine us on Cup Final week. You know, when stories come out like that 3 days before the Cup Final, they're not designed to help us.
Have today's events, all today's events, actually put resolving all the off-the-field problems further back then?
I don't know. I'm not really going to think about that tonight because we've had all this week. In fact, this week, in the evenings, everything has still been going on because we was trying to do something before the Cup Final. It wasn't possible. We're just going to relax tonight and business as usual on Monday morning, I would say.
Sum up today and what it means to you for us.
Very difficult. Unexplainable, really. I think it felt so good because it was a bit like a fairy story, the fact that we've had these problems. Just the mere fact I've got involved in some ways, or sometimes I've thought, excuse me, sometimes I've thought, is this worthwhile? And then you think, you look at people and supporters, you think, yes, we've got to keep going, we've got to keep going to the death, and it's been difficult. And what it has done, win, lose or draw, it's kept us together to get to a Cup Final and then eventually on top of that win it, which seeing those supporters today when I was walking around was special and I was really thrilled for them, you know.
Could there be a better day?
I haven't seen one yet. Let's hope there is a better day, but it was a special day for me and I think for lots of people, staff, as well as the players and the supporters. Everybody's been unsure about what's going on. And there's nothing you can really say to appease them at the moment. And we've all hung on in there, and it's been a fairy tale ending.
But not for Gascoigne. Well, the Scottish Cup final at Hampden was between Dundee United and Motherwell. There were 7 goals in this one. Dundee United are in the white. Jock Brown is the commentator.
Hill playing it high for Ireland. That's not the way Dougie Ireland likes to receive passes. There's O'Donnell. Ferguson into space for Griffin, who's doing some good work on the right from Motherwell. Releasing the early cross. There's Ferguson! It's a classic from Motherwell! The celebrations begin! There's the early cross. In goes John Clark. Colliding there with Maxwell. The ball was thumped to safety in the end by Ian Angus, but Maxwell's in trouble once again. Well, what a collision that was between Maxwell and John Clark. He came thundering in to get on the end of this cross from John O'Neill. And the official attendance handed to us, 57,319. Here's David Cooper. A chance on here, and it is onside. And it was great defending by Krivonovic. Near dry Krivonovic demonstrating superb awareness there. He knew exactly where Arnold was breaking, kept Cooper in front of him and cut off the pass. It was brilliant play. It equals up. The goal has been scored by Bowman. Well, so close to a goal for Motherwell, and then it's Dundee United